I wanted to ask you about the next book. Will your next book, do you know what it'll be about yet? Or do you just know I'm going to write another book?
No, I do have some ideas, probably with the same publisher. One of the chapters that I really enjoyed writing in this Hood book is called Accident, and it's about all the kind of the accidents and the tragedies that have happened on the mountain over the years since people started climbing it. There's a little bit of a morbid side to that, but there's also a lot of good things that come out of those, you know, some heroism and people doing a lot of good. And so one of the ideas is to maybe touch on or do a book on not necessarily just the accidents and tragedies, but maybe the search and rescue aspect and those kind of chapters that have happened throughout the entire Cascade Range, from Shasta in the south, maybe up into British Columbia in the north, and just kind of look at each mountain and its different aspects along those lines.
Yeah, I would imagine there is, because of the appeal to, you know, especially people who have a real interest in climbing, all of those peaks, there's got to be a lot of stories.
Yeah.
How do you go about finding those people?
You know, it's word of mouth. There's some climbing boards where there's a lot of you know, online areas where you can find people. There have been some books written, maybe some not as in depth, or some that take a different angle. So you just have to look. One of the guys who I interviewed in the Hood book, he was on board a helicopter that crashed in 2002. The helicopter was rolling down the mountain, and he actually gets thrown out of the helicopter and run over by it.
And like a facial burn or something from it, right? Yeah.
But I did, you know, I looked hard to find one of those guys who were on the helicopter, and it was hard to find one and to find one to talk to me. But I ended up finding him just by searching for his name, and I found this pest control company down in Bend, and it's him. And he agreed to meet me and, you know, talk and tell me his story. But, you know, so again, it's just kind of like good journalism and digging and finding the right people.
Do you have any fear about, like, once the book, now you have a book that's been published, will people be happy with how you referenced them, or will they think that, you know, you didn't really tell my story the way that I told it to you? Did you have any reservations or think about that?
I mean, I think as a writer you always do. I tried to be as factually correct as I could, and wherever I had questions, I revisited with my sources to make sure. The book has only been out for a couple weeks, so I haven't gotten a whole lot of feedback yet, which no news could be good news.
Right.
Or they could be it could be pent up and they're waiting to get at me, but I hope not. You know, I didn't set out to misrepresent anybody or whatnot, and so I hope that I told as faithful a story of that I could. You know.
Yeah. What do you think was the biggest thing you uncovered, or maybe, you know, you said you've been on the mountain for 14 years or something, or experiencing the mountain, and in that time, was there something that you learned in the writing of this book that astounded you?
You know, I was thinking about that because a couple of people have asked me that, and I would have to say, like, I didn't really break any new ground with this book. A lot of the information was out there. It just had never been brought together before, but a couple of things kind of stick out. One, as I mentioned before, is that everybody has this connection with Mount Hood. That I was back east a couple weeks ago and telling people about the book, and so you find people in the airport who are from the East Coast who, you know, they've been out to the Timberline skiing, or their college roommate climbed Mount Hood or something. It just seems like it's a really well-connected mountain, a real well-known. But then on a smaller scale, things that I learned. There was a smaller volcano beneath the existing Mount Hood as we know it now. That's part of it is still visible over on the west side, which I thought was kind of an interesting little geological thing that I didn't know. Also, that Mount Hood only erupted just over 200 years ago, which is really just kind of a couple hours ago in geological time. And one of the geologists I talked to said you could basically if Timberline had been there at the time, the eruption probably would have just kind of oozed right around it, because that's what Mount Hood is known for. It's not a real explosive mountain.
Okay.
And the one other thing that really surprised me is that at one point they thought about building a big resort on the north side of Mount Hood in the 1920s and running a cable car all the way to the summit of Mount Hood, which to me would have been a travesty, but
Yeah.
It never happened, probably because of the Great Depression and also because the summit of Mount Hood is pretty crumbly and not very sturdy. So,
yeah, that would have been really amazing if they would have done that.
Yeah.
That
So I'm
would have
glad they
changed
didn't.
things. What about, because you live in Portland or the Portland area, Lake
Right.
Oswego, what do people in Portland think? Or what's your impression of what people think of Mount Hood?
I think a lot of people see it the way I do. Maybe not. Maybe they don't go to it as often as I have. But people see it as a place to escape to. A lot of skiers and snowboarders, campers and hikers. A lot of people see it, just as a beautiful fixture off on the horizon when they're sitting in their office working. They also see it as a place to share with people from out of town. I know that every time I have guests come from out of town, we always do the Mount Hood loop, kind of, out 84 through Hood River up to Timberline, and really blow people away with it. And then there's the whole aspect that's kind of unseen, the whole fact that Mount Hood supplies water, it impacts the weather, there's an economy around the mountain, things that don't impact people directly that they really don't think about, but if it wasn't there, the region would be a lot different.
Yeah. So your book on Mount Hood, again, is your first book, and as you work on the second book, what do you think is the most important thing that you've learned from writing this book that you would or wouldn't do again? Or is there?
No, I definitely learned a lot. I took this book, I was so excited when I got the offer and the contract that I kind of signed it and agreed to do it in six or 7 months. And so I really spent a lot of time on the book, in a really condensed amount of time. And I'm hoping for the second book that I get a little more time and can explore things a little more in depth. I know there's a lot of depth to this book, but a few more months would have been helpful, and that could be a revised edition in the future. Maybe we'll see.
Okay.
I'm happy with the way it came out, but give me a couple more months on it, and the story will get even better.
Wow. Well, good. Well, Jon, thanks. I wish you the absolute best with the sale of the book. I think if people just take a little bit of time to crack it open, they're going to find, like I did, that it's really it's a fascinating book, and like you said, Mount Hood is such a part of all of our lives here in the Northwest. So I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me on, Jon.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And again, you guys, I always really appreciate you guys watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Remember, take care of each other.
Do you have a guest idea? Let us know. Go to localite.com.